This week I'm taking you on vacation. We are in base St. Louis and we're going to have a lot of fun, and I'm going to give you some creative tips that I use while visiting an area. This church is listed as number 3 must-see in base St. Louis, so I thought I would take my sketchbook here. Next up is the Bee House, a beautiful restored house in base St. Louis that I love. So look at this cute little box I got for Christmas. I think Paul saw my wish list on my Amazon, and it's worked out perfect. And this is the little house that I am attracted to. I love the way this tree comes over the little house as if it's kind of protecting the house, like the little branch is an arm. So the first tip is you can always just paint in your car. You don't have to paint outside if it's cold and windy. So here's the little bell house. I put in my opera pink for my flag there. And I think I've been here about 25 minutes. And you can see how much my light has changed. On to the next one. I tried to beat the light, but I didn't win. It is beautiful, but I can barely see anything. I do try to paint, and I capture what I could while I was there. But as you see, before I leave, it is completely dark. I'm going to use these Daniel Smith watercolors to try to capture the beautiful sunrise that we had this morning, just to get my day started and be able to remember how beautiful the day was. It is really cold and windy here today, so I think I'm going to also do a project with you that I think you will enjoy, and it's a little abstract piece, and we'll get to that one next. We're going to be using a limited palette, a white, an ultramarine blue, a sandy brown color, and a touch of phthalo green. And we're just going to mix 3 different values, and then we'll have our darker values with these colors. Just use a limited palette, and we're going to be focusing on the weather, the wind, the patterns in the water, the not waves, but the ripple, the movement, the branches in the back. We're just going to be thinking of those things. There's no wrong or right way for this, but I'm just going to start by adding this sandy color, and I've taped down, this is 2 pieces of paper, and I've just taped it down to make 4 panels. Well, that escalated quickly. The wind was not allowing me to paint outside, but that's fine. We'll just do it inside. I've got my pieces of paper taped together, and you can see the tape that I have used, and I've taped it on a canvas board. This is just my darker value, and I'm using a small brush and a large brush and going back and forth, just thinking of the wind, and the ripples in the water and the branches. And I'm just creating movement, going back and forth between my values. This is deli paper, and I have put white paint on the deli paper, and I'm just smushing it in, just creating a pattern. I'm using a palette knife to move some of the colors around and give a different texture. I'm flipping my canvas over, and now I'm spraying it with a little water, and I'll let that kind of sit for a minute, and then when you wipe it off, it'll leave some beautiful textures where the water was. I add some white paint to that paper towel and smooth that in, just creating soft edges and some hard edges with the brush. And I'm just creating patterns. And I'm softening some of the edges, thinking of the water and thinking of the sky. Now we're going to remove our tape, and you see you have 4 individual pieces. I did cut the 2 pieces in half, but look how you have individual paintings. They all go together. You could frame these in one frame and you would have a great abstract piece. I love all the textures you can get from these. Although it is still a very windy day, I decided I would take my chances and go to the beach. I am painting on a Canson board, and I have my new little easel that really worked well. It held the board in place and it didn't fly off, so that was a win. And I'm just using some of the local color in painting the sky, but towards the bottom of the painting later, I do take some liberties in the colors and push it a little more towards some warmer values on the sand. I'm using watercolor, the Daniel Smith watercolor, and the Holbein turquoise. I've taped down some postcards, watercolor paper, and I have pre-wet some of the paper, and now I'm using just loosely putting watercolor in different areas to create an abstract landscape scene. I went to the beach this morning with my perfect sketchbook and did a watercolor, and that's what prompted this exercise that I thought would be fun to do with you. It's another tip or an idea that you can do while on vacation. Gather up some watercolor paper and cut to a postcard size and just do some abstract landscape scenes of where you're at. not worrying about if it's realistic, but more color notes. I think that's a great way to be creative and not have to carry a ton of stuff on location. Very little is needed, just a few watercolors and some postcards. I use a palette knife to push around the paint, but also you can use the tip and scratch into your paper and the watercolor will pool into those lines and create some very fine lines, which is a nice little technique. I'm removing the tape and looking at each of my little postcard paintings. I think they turned out really nice. And here is my perfect sketchbook, my first page in my perfect sketchbook. I think it really turned out nice, and I have the memory of the beach. I hope this week has given you some ideas on different ways you can create on location and come home with some beautiful memories and beautiful paintings. I'll see you next week, and I hope you have a great day.